Welcome to episode 5 of The Order. Just to clear some stuff up, we're not covering extensions or optional rules. You can find them on the website or official rules in the description below. So, let's look into Phase 3 of War Room. Okay, so I got the movement operations ready for the video, and just to clear some stuff up, in maybe a few months, there will be some changes to the rules because there's a new Kickstarter campaign for War Room, so you should check that out. And there will be some new rules, but sadly I won't be able to cover them. So let me move on to Phase 3. It's ready as Japan. So that's how much everyone bid. That's how much oil everyone has bid. The first thing you would do is hang on. Yeah. So the first thing you would do is flip all the battles to a fiery side. There's only one battle happening the first turn, so right here in J25. And let me see what you do next. Okay, so let me do all the moves. Choose. Oh yeah, hang on. Let me actually place where everyone's going. So Japan gets to choose who, when he goes, and obviously I'm going to choose that I go first. I picked Japan because they're the best country, like, to be when you're trying to explain stuff, because they can do everything, and also personally they're my favourite. I'll just make them. It's random, by the way, if no one hits. There we go. Yeah, basically, typically, your enemy would read out the actual rules. I mean, one of the rules, your movements, and you or your ally would actually move them, so you can't cheat or anything. So your enemy would normally read this out. But everyone can see this on Tabletop Simulator, so let me just move more 76 to B25. As you can see, this is 76 and this is B25. I think, yeah, I already explained that before. Was number 30. There it is. C3. 46, 2, 44. Where's 44? 2. And where's 24? Oh, there it is. C4. A1. Number 3 to this P8. No, it's not. Oh wait, I'm an idiot. P18 is right here. There's number 1 to P19. And finally, there's number 9 to P17, which is right here in the Indian Ocean. So, let me see what you do. Okay, so once every action has been done or has been cancelled, you would hold on. Yeah, you'd place the arrow tags on all the carriers, so that's already done on Tabletop Simulator, and you'd move them on Phase 5. All illegal actions would be automatically cancelled. So if I made number 15 go to B18, they'll just be cancelled automatically. And passages through straits or pinning can't be optional, by the way. So if a British player allowed the Italian player to move through the straits, but that's not how it works. You can't choose who moves through the straits, who doesn't. And the same goes for pinning. You can't choose to let someone move out of the pin, even if it helps you. Yes, you can't do that. You have to fight to break out. And other than breaking out of a pin, units can't be combined or divided in this phase. And after you're done, you place the hotspot markers on each of the battles. So, oh wait, oh wait, hang on, let me, I'll crop this out. Okay, yeah, okay. So the next thing you do is, yeah, okay, so the next thing you do is move the carriers, well, the carrier fighters, and they all appear on carriers each time it's on phase 3 on the carrier, and they die at the end of the at the end of the phase. And they work just like normal fighters, like they can move 2 spaces, so 1, 2, or they can just remain on the carrier. Yeah, so just on the carrier or on an area next to carrier. And when these planes die, okay, when you move them, you don't write it down, you just move them. So that's a key difference. And when they're taken out, they don't take stress. Or if the carrier dies, but the plane doesn't die. Well, if the carrier dies, the plane doesn't die right there and then. Only after the phase. And if the carrier dies, you don't take stress from this fighter. Can it? Yeah. So you can just move them around, these thingy fighters. Yeah, if they yeah, so you do take stress if your fighter dies, just like a normal fighter. But when it's taken off and the carrier dies, or well, whether the carrier dies or not, you won't take stress when this is taken off. So next thing you do after all these guys have moved, let me just move them all. Actually, you know what? Let me just do this fast. Let me just skip it all. Sure, where are they? United States, ready. Brits. Finally, the Japs. Yeah, so next thing you do is place hotspot markers on all the battles, so Rhino's lagging, and over here it does automatically, but normally when there's a battle you just place hotspot markers on each of the battles. So let me show you an example of a battle. One. Okay. Hang on. I'll stop recording right here. I'm just going to make an example. I'm just going to change the commands a bit to find a proper example which can explain stuff pretty well. Okay, so I got the phase ready, and I just wanted to say that some of the rules which I'll be talking may be changed because there's a new Kickstarter campaign. So you should check that out, and I'll put the link to the Kickstarter, the second version, in the description. So the first thing you would do on phase 3, well, hang on, let me actually press ready on my thing. That's how much oil everyone has bid. I just made Japan bid too. So the first thing you would do is flip it to the battle phase, well, the active side. Then, since Japan did the most, they'll choose when they go, so I'll obviously make them go first. I'll just make, well, the people who, whenever it's tight, it's just random. There we go. And the next thing which you would do is, well, typically, your enemy would read out the orders like in the real life game, so you don't cheat or change your orders. So basically, typically, so the enemy would read out, but since it's tabletop simulator, everyone can see it, so you can't really change it. So where's 46? Yeah, so 46, we're going to move to C2, and number 15 to C1. Number 9, where's number 9? To I2. By the way, I specifically decided who goes where, just so I can show some examples, which I'll cover soon. 76. Where's 76? There it is, Papua New Guinea. And number 54 is. Wait, let me actually see number 54 before I check that. Am I blind? 54. Oh wait. Oh yeah. Let me explain. So if whenever you're moving units, you do have the choice to cancel it. So bam, I just cancelled it. So I'm not gonna do it. It's gonna stay in number J24. And for 54, which is this guy here, I'm moving him to P16. He can't move to West Australia straight away, but he can move to a C zone. And if say I made my guy in Thailand move all the way to Afghanistan, the move would just be automatically cancelled. For Germany, I didn't do any moves for Germany really. So the US, number 4, goes to P14, which is there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, which would be cancelled. So that because these guys are blocking the way. So this is cancelled, only moved to P13. I'm not sure why it's not automatically cancelling. It should. Wait, is there? Yeah, there's 4-4. Well, normally this would be cancelled, or he would just move to P13. And these guys over here with 73, they successfully made it to P14 because it's 4-4, so these two cancel each other out, and he would move to P14. I done that on purpose, just to show how pinning works for the C units. But this will be a really dumb decision because this guy over here would automatically get killed by these ships. But if these ships were over here, it would be a decent move because you could invade Indochina or Hainan or something like that. So let me move this guy back down. The Brits, which is let me find number 80. God, I'm hoping I'm recording right now because before I forgot to press the recording button. Where's number 80? Number 8. Oh, Australia. Okay, so this is a another cancel. So you can see that the Japanese guys are going to land in West Australia soon. So if you want, you could cancel it. But you can't make a new decision, so you can't move to West Australia, but you can next turn. So now the Chinese, which is 103 to J6. Oh wait. Oh, let me explain something. You can't change your decisions. You can't make new decisions. But since this is just an example, I made a slight error. This guy was meant to move here. Normally when a game you can't do this, but I'm just showing an example. So pretend this was C. Pretend this guy moved here, and this guy was going to move to Indochina. Because this two of these units moved to Szechuan, you'd have to divide these into well, you'd have to divide it so one artillery, one infantry would move to Indochina. Let me divide this. I'm not really good at dividing. Hang on. What's that? Oh, yeah. Okay, that's how you do it. And then move this here. And these guys, well, we connect it. These guys will move to Indochina. Since there's two guys here, two there and two there. Let me group these. Form a stack. And we form a stack. Yeah. So the other decision is the 101, which moves to C4. This is normally a good decision, but I'm just going to show how it works with air attacks. So yeah, so once everyone read out the decisions, you would place the arrow tags, which is done automatically here, and the planes. They work just like normal fighters, but the carriers, they're like their own space, so you can only move 1, 2. So like you can stay in the carrier or in any area next to a carrier, and they're all color coded by which team controls them. If this carrier fighter is killed, then you take the stress for it. But after each round they disappear. But if the carrier died, and the plane survives, you won't take stress for it at all. Like you just wouldn't take stress for it. It's simple as that. Unless the plane died like in the battle which the carrier died in. But if it survived, then it doesn't die. Well, it does die, but you don't take stress. I think that's easy enough to understand. And you would yeah, you'd move the actual planes in phase 5, and when you move them, you don't need to write it down. You just move them. Anyway, so I think this is pretty self-evident, but someone asked me before, you can't let people move through straight. So the Japanese player can't let the British move through the straight, and also with pinning, you can't let someone break out of a pin. Like you can't let your enemy break out of a pin, even if it helps you. Like that's not how it works. You have to fight for it, or you can. Or no, there's no or. You just have to do that. And other than breaking out of a pin, like when fighting out of a pin, you can't divide your units. Like over here, you could because, well, obviously because that's how much units can move to Indochina. And so let me check the scripts for what's next. Yeah, so after you're done, which is hang on, oh wait, no, I made a mistake. I'm sorry, I made a mistake. On phase 3, like on phase 5 is when they're removed. You do move them in phase 3. So sorry, that was my bad. Yes, on phase 3 you gotta move them. So that's what you're doing right now. Just to us, I'm just gonna press ready for all of them, just so I can move on to the next topic. They don't have any. Okay, so it's obviously ready because I don't have any. And finally, the US, which I'm pretty sure is over here. Oh, I'm lagging. Sorry about lag. Okay. There it is. Ready. So the next thing you do is place the hotspot markers on every battle, well, in every place which has a battle. And they will be on the fiery. I don't know why that automatically flipped. Let me flip that back to the fiery side. So this is where all the hotspot markers will be placed, and also the arrow tags would show that the fighters have to move out. Yeah, so this is where the battles will be, and even battles with a garrison force, which I didn't show any, but the garrison force is basically battle. If these guys in Guangxi weren't here, and these guys over here moved here, then you would still have a hotspot marker there. But yeah, so and hold on. Oh wait. Okay, so yeah, let me just show an example of the battles. So I'll start. Well, normally since the Japanese move first, they get to choose the battle first. So I'll choose. Oh wait, I was gonna initially show an example, but that's gonna be for phase 4. Um, so I'll talk about how battles work later on. And yeah, so by the way, it's really obvious, but C units, they can't enter the land areas. So yeah, so I'm gonna move on to phase 4 right now, actually. So you can see that there's 2 battle sheets over here. So there's one for land battles and one for sea battles, and they're further divided into the ground and aerial battles. So over here for aerial, like with planes, over here for ground for ships or land units. And let me explain everything on here. So let me get an example. I'll get these guys up here. Alright. So in a battle, first of all, you would place it. Well, you'd place the actual flag. You place the actual flag in the US because it's an American, and you'd place the units underneath the flag. And because it's a tank, you'd move in one of these 2 areas. So I'll explain what they are later on. But yes, you could. So you place it on here, and since dice are color coded, if I rolled 1 green, the tank will move here. If a battle ends with a tank or any unit being like on a smaller version of themselves, then they would automatically be healed up to a normal stance. If I rolled 2 greens, then they would be damaged. So not slightly damaged, damaged. And when they're damaged, in an end of a battle, you'd have to pay 1 resource to fully heal them up, any resource, or you pay nothing, but they die. And the grey is basically meaning that they're dead. And yeah, so hang on, what was I? Hang on. Well, yeah, but let me just explain what these things are. If you're defensive, it takes more dice for me to kill you. Like over here, just one green automatically makes it injured. And but if you're offensive, normally if you have a tank, you get 2 dice to roll. But if you put on offensive, it's easier to get killed. You have 4 dice to roll. And yes, oh, and there's something different. Let me explain something about the submarines over here. They have this die feature, which basically, well, hang on. The injured applies to every single guy. But the major exception is the submarine. And if I rolled 1 yellow, then they would just die. And that means that they leave the battle for the round. But if you roll any extra yellows after that, it won't do it until it's the next round. And yeah, if you rolled 2 yellows, then obviously the submarine would die. If only 1, they dive. Then you put them on the escaped area over here. Well, once you like agree on who goes when, the person who goes first, so in this case Japan, would choose a battle. So once all the battles are done, well, you have to do every single battle, like including raids. You have to do every battle or raid. If say let me get an example. I'm not gonna show a battle right now because it's gonna take too much time. But say if every single Chinese guy, if every single one of them died, let me just get rid of them. Then you would also get rid of the C3, so would be got rid of. So I'll just get rid of that. And if hang on, let me find another example. Is okay? So if this battle here in the Solomon Islands, if none of them died, if the battle remained inconclusive, then you just flip it. So let me flip it. Yeah. So that's what you would do if battle's incomplete. Hang on, I'm just checking something. Okay, let me show an actual example of some combat. Wait, why is there a button here? Oh, these guys. Well, these guys will just automatically die. I'll do a hang on. Is there a cruise? I'm not gonna do one with a cruiser because there's a whole different feature with that one. So let me find something else. Is there a cruiser right? Yes, there is. Oh yeah, there are some naval battles which start off in the beginning of the game. Actually, let me just show you the actual battle here. So I have to press R in Tabletop Simulator. Okay, there's an error in the script for some reason. Well, I'll just get them on manually. Okay. But I don't know why that's. I think it's because I flipped it. Okay. No. Oh, that's why. It's because I left these guys there. My bad. Let me just delete them. Japanese artillery and infantry. Let me get the Americans. Wait, let me just see. Does this work now? No, it doesn't. Oh no, why? It's probably because I flipped it. I'm gonna break the start. So you have the option to make your artillery be stronger against air units. Where there's no air units, so I might as well keep them on the ground. And for the infantry, I can make them last longer, only have one die, or make them last not as long, so it only takes 1 year to kill them, but you have 2 die. So I'll make the Japanese like that. And normally on Tabletop Simulator, this will be happening automatically, but I'll just have to do it manually. So let me get 2 die. Wait, one. Never mind, 3 die. Why is it not grabbing? 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so I'm gonna roll for Japs. I need to try getting a blue and a yellow. Blue and a yellow. Okay, that was just one blue, and the others were green, so this guy's gonna be injured. and now the Americans would roll. So R. 2 blues. Okay, so that means the artillery died, and the Americans would pay a resource. So let me drag the American piece down. I'll make them lose 1 OSR because they have loads of OSRs. And this guy would be eliminated. And this guy will be obviously healed. And so the battle would remain inconclusive, and so it would be flipped. Let me just bring it back to its area. Solomon Islands. Oh, whoops. Let me just regroup them, form stack. And form stack. And so this will be flipped. And units. What? No. By the way, units being built cannot participate in battle, and if some units were being built in Japan, and I conquered Japan, or actually, if Peiping, if units were being built in Peiping, then well, the units being built would be captured by the other country, unless if China captured Peiping, then if it would go to China, but if Aero C units were being built, then it wouldn't go to China because China can't have those units. It's illegal. Yeah, so land units in the sea can't really participate in the battle. They'll just die automatically. And yeah, so these guys are just dead. So if I press R, they should die. I think there's an error because what? Oh, it's because of Solomons, that's why. Well, basically, sorry about the glitch, but normally they would just die, so let me get rid of them. Yeah, so let me by the way, if there's a battle, like 2 allies are conquering one area, they both have to agree on who would get the area. Like they both can't control it, they just have to arrange on who would get it. Okay. Okay. By the way, wait, let me check that. Oh yeah, you can make one if you had 2 infantry. You can make 1 defensive, 1 offensive. You can mix it up. And if someone has port advantage or force advantage, which I'll cover more in depth soon. Let me get arrow. If that's the case, you'd place an arrow tag on depending on who has the advantage. So yeah, if it was the Axis, you could just place one here, and let me just flip it. It would be a red, and it depends on who has more different types of units. So if the Allies had, well, if the Axis had a tank, an artillery, and infantry, and the Allies had 5 infantry, the Axis have more different types, so they'd get force advantage. And force advantage. Well, air units don't get affected by force advantage, but basically, if you have force advantage, if your enemy rolls a black or white, it does nothing. Normally, blacks can hit any unit of choice, and white can hit any damaged unit. And this is why I didn't choose the cruiser. But let me explain this special feature. It's called escort. And what it means is that if a ship is hit, then the cruiser can take the hit. And if say if a carrier was meant to be injured, well, you can instead make the cruiser die, basically, because it would be 2 hits. And if the cruiser dies, that's obviously not an option. And there's also port advantage, which works like force advantage, where it's different when it's whoever has more different types of units. And what it means is, well, you could see here, if any of the units reach this, if they're injured, they can be healed automatically, like for free, just like these guys. And also you get 2 extra dices for a battle. Yeah, but if you have if my poor advantage is, oh wait, no, never mind. I I I got poor advantage wrong. It's not for different types. I don't know why that's in the script. It's, oh, sorry. For port advantage, it's not if there's more different types. It's when it's next to a port. That's why it's called port advantage. That was, oh, really sorry about the mistake. Port advantage is if it's next to a port. If there's 2 ports in an area, that doesn't mean they get 4 dices. They'll always just get 2 dices. Yeah. And it does kind of matter when picking battles which one you pick, because say if there was a land battle in this area, let me see what it's called, Khabarovsky. If there was a battle in Khabarovsky, but also in P1, then it would matter, because if the Soviets had some ships here, then that means the Soviets will get port advantage. And unless, well, if a battle in Khabarovsky happened first and the Japanese won, that means the Soviets would lose the port advantage and could potentially lose the battle in P1. So it really matters on which battle you'd pick first. And but as previously mentioned, you pick battles in order of who bid how much oil. And finally, there's the garrison forces, which occur in every area which has no units, which includes neutral areas like Central America or the West Indies, or which have no units, or Guyanas, which aren't neutral but they still have no units. Or if you just move your units out, it'll still have a garrison force. And the garrison force, basically, if there was if these guys over here moved into Honan, then the Chinese would have to roll. Well, they'd get 2 dices. If both of them matched green, blue, or yellow, then that unit would be dead. So if there's 2 greens, the armor would die, or if there was 2 blues, the artillery, and 2 yellows, 1 infantry. So one of any. If there's 2 guys moving in, then the best you can hope was to kill one of them. And if you rolled a green and blue, it doesn't kill both of them. That's not how it works. Yeah, so garrison force can kill one guy, and say over here in Papua New Guinea, you can, and if one of them died, then it would obviously matter on if they get to capture the territory. And if I roll with the garrison force rolled a black, then it counts as one of them. So if you roll the black and the yellow, then it counts as 2 yellows, or a green and a black. So you really want black. Black, because black can match with any colour you want. And the white's the worst one, because white doesn't mean anything. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for the battles. Yeah, so I think that was simple enough. Yeah, I didn't miss anything. Okay, basically the map which I was using before, well, the game wasn't working for some reason, so I have to redo it. Well, no, I don't have to redo it, but I have to use a different one, so I'll use the Pacific one, which Pacific scenario, which is right here. And since I covered land battles, let me show you an aerial and sea battle. So I'd press R on Tabletop Simulator. Let me show you the battle. No, that's the land sheet. The sea sheet. So, as Japan, first I have to pick the, by the way, both these countries have force advantage. Wait, no, I think this means, yeah, not, um, hang on, I mean, things, yeah, pretty sure both of them have force advantage since they have 3 different colors. The first thing you do is pick the stances. So since it's an air on air, I'm going to keep my plane fighting this plane. So I don't need to make this battleship fight the planes. Same with this carrier. Just in case these two get killed, I'm going to put this guy in escort. Put the submarine in. Well, obviously submarine is nothing else I can do. And since it's only one ship, I'll obviously make it offensive. And although it's risky since this guy might die, because there's not enough people fighting this lot, might as well make it fight the planes. So this is ready. And first, the first thing which happens is the planes roll. So first Japanese planes will roll. And then you roll a green. Obviously it's 7. Okay. None of us got a successful roll. That's for ships. Yellows and blues, so that kills them. And now them will roll again. Well, not again, but now the allied ships will roll. They got quite a lot of yellows and blues, which is not good. And so now I will choose who dies. Make this guy not die, make him injured. Same with this guy. So these guys are saved. I'll make this guy just pay 1 OSR to keep him alive. And so that's how you do a sea battle, and that's how you use aerial battles. No matter if it's a land or sea battle, you do the aerial ones first. And yeah, so now we'll cover all the battles. Let's dive into how naval raids work and how bombings work. So convoy raids work like this. So say if these by the way, this is on the wrong face, I can't do it. But oh wait, I nearly forgot. Hang on. When you're in a battle, you'd have well if there's no if hang on, I'm trying to think how you explain this. So if there are any units controlled by the Axis, which are ground units, you'd place a hotspot marker over here. Same with the Allies. If there's an Allied ground units, you place a hotspot marker here. If there's any Axis or Allied aerial units, you'd place one for each side if they have them. And whenever, so if the Axis planes rolled, after they've rolled, you put the hotspot marker away. So then you know who rolled and who hasn't rolled. So that's how you conclude a battle. By the way, each side only rolls once in a battle, so these guys roll, these guys roll, these guys roll, and these guys roll, and bam, that's the end of the battle for the round. So let me go back to convoy raids. If these ships were here, then they could raid these convoys. There are 3 convoys over here, and each of them represent a resource. And well, in the transatlantic, which isn't here in the Pacific, but you'll be able to see next to Greenland and Iceland, there's the flags of the UK and US. So say if the Germans took over the convoy areas, oh wait, no, if the Japanese took over the convoy areas, so I-1, then the British would have to pay maximum free resources. And if Germany controlled Iceland, wait, no, sorry, I'm reading off the script, so this will be based on a different one. sorry, if the Japanese controlled India and Iran, and the Japanese ship was here, there'll be no raid. But if Japan controlled India and Iran, and British ships moved into here, then the British are convoy raiding the Japanese. And in the transatlantic convoys, if Germany controlled Greenland and Iceland, then nobody can raid it. Like the Allies can't and the Axis can't. So that's the one exception to the transatlantic convoys. Hang on, I'm just checking what's next. Yeah, so convoy raids only happen if there's no present units. So if these are British units, when I won, then the convoy raid would not happen, even if they died on that turn. And when there is a convoy raid, you have to place a hotspot marker here because it is a type of battle. It is a type of battle, and only one convoy can be raided per once. So as you can see, these are separate convoys. So you can't raid all three. You can only raid one. Yeah. So land troops do not count as defenders. If there are British land troops here, then the convoy raid would still happen, and those land troops would be sunk. And if multiple nations raid one convoy, you'll have to select who does the roles and not gets resources, but let me actually explain how you do it. So you do it by you raid them depending on how much sea or air units there are. So over here is 1 and 3, so you'd get 3 dices, and you can't roll more than 10 at a time. So when you roll the 3 dices, the colours have to match the resource. But if there were 2 yellow ships and you rolled only 1 yellow, both of the yellows would be accounted for. And what those mean is what that means is if there's 2 ships and I rolled 1 yellow, then the Brits have to lose 2 OSRs because each of the ships represent a resource. Red is for oil, yellow for OSRs, and blue for steel. If you rolled a black, then it can apply to any colour which the attacker can select. And the one exception is that your convoy, the raid can't take more resources than an area's worth. So basically when areas get bombed, they could be worth less. So say if I'm trying to think how you explain how if there were 3 ships here and you can see India's worth 2, then you can't take away 3 resources. You can only take 2 because that would be more than India. Yeah. Even or if it's embattled, then it can't be more. So because when an area is embattled, it's not worth as much, and so you can't convoy raid it and take as much stuff from it. And so that's pretty. I think that pretty much makes sense. And you can't roll. Yeah, I've already said you can't roll more than 10. The same applies to battles actually. If you had 12 rolls, well, you had 12 dices, like for the land units, you'd roll 10, then they would roll their amount, then you'd roll an extra 2, just so because there's not as much dice, so you just roll 10 at a time. So that's pretty much convoy raids. You just take resources. Well, no, you don't take them. But the person you're raiding would lose them. Yeah, so India, if they get convoy raided, they lose 1 OSR. So if it gets raided successfully, So bombers, let me find a bomber actually. Is there one there in full? No. Oh yeah, there's some in the Philippines. So bombers, they can move up to 2 spaces like any aerial unit. So 1, 2 to shake and count on. During a battle, actually let me move it to a battle. Well, only for land battles. I'm pretty sure it can't work for sea battles. Yeah, it can't work for sea battles, but for land battles, you have a choice to hang on, let me ungroup this. Next. You have a choice to make your bomber rather fight like a normal plane and air/ground, which by now you know how it works, or you can make it strategic, which is what I haven't covered yet. And strategic is a really thing which you can do because hang on, Trent. Well, hang on. When you do strategic, it's basically its own thing. It happens in between aerial rolls and land rolls. So after the planes roll, that's when the bombings start happening. And each bomber gets 4 dice to roll when it's going to start bombing. So you could see over here 4. And when it does that, it can only attack units being built. So there's no point doing that in say Western Canada or places in China. But if you're doing that in India, I've been talking about India quite a lot. but yeah, so if you're doing India, the bombers they can kill the units being built, which is quite handy. And you do this by rolling it. So if you roll a yellow, that means you're killing an infantry being built, or blue an artillery, or green a tank, or any planes being built. Or you can choose not to kill infantry, and instead you can make an area be worth less, which is what I mentioned before. So if you rolled a red and you were bombing the Western US, if you rolled a red and they were building a bomber, you could A, kill that bomber, or B, you can make the Western US give 1 oil instead of 2. And I haven't seen it myself, but my friend has, and he sent a screenshot where an area of the US got bombed so bad that the whole US was worth nothing. It gave nothing, and nothing was being built. It was crazy. And if you roll a white, it destroys every single port or railway in an area. So any railways or ports are useless. You don't do anything, but you still can use them to build sea units. They just don't give you port advantage. And bombed territories can never be unbombed, so to speak. But with the second version being built, there is a way to unbomb yourself. But we're not covering the second version because it's not out. It's not fully out yet. And black is the best thing you can get, because if you get black, you could choose anything to destroy it. You can choose basically anything. And that does include the white, I forgot what's called, the white thing, the how much an area is worth. So you can make it so the area can't build anything. If you by the way, if you do roll white, so you can't use the rails, you have to place a bomb token on it. Or if you make a territory be worthless. I'm gonna hang on. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna check something. I forgot if you roll a white. I'm not sure if you roll a white does it also make it worth less, because I know if you're black you have the option to make that. And either way, if you roll a white, you have to place a bomb token on it. But I remember seeing like nine bomb tokens on it, so I'm gonna check what that means. Each time a territory is bombed, you'd place a bomb token on it. It is possible to make an area be worth 0. Like I've seen one of my friend basically one of my friend here showed a screenshot where the US it was worth basically 0. Like it rolled there were enough bombings, so it was worth 0 over here in this white, and there were just 9 bomb tokens on it. Anyhow, so let me explain what you do after a battle is done. So firstly, straight after a battle, all slightly damaged units are healed. So let me find a slight. Well, you know what slightly damaged is. Let me just show you again, just in case. Over here, like whether it's like a small copy of a unit, it means it's slightly damaged. The same with C units. You can see over here, slightly damaged. Or if they're and all the injured units, you have to heal them or let them die. You have to make a choice after a battle. Unless if it's a sea battle and you have port advantage, then all of them get healed automatically for free. And the units which are killed, put them on the stress sheet. So I already had a naval battle and does automatically. So you could see each of the units are worth a certain amount of stress. I'll talk about stress in more depth later on when I'm on that phase. Right now we're still doing phase 4. So yeah, all of them are moved to a stress sheet and move next to the flags and underneath the unit which we have to be. And units which weren't killed move back to original place after a battle. So if there was a battle in Kwang Si, and if there was a battle in Kwang Si, I moved these here, and we moved both of them to a battle area, or to a battle sheet. Any surviving units would move back into a place after the battle. And if the territory is captured, place the circular flag on it. So you can see over here there's a pack here with a Chinese flag or one a Japanese flag, which you'd place if you capture a territory. And if you capture territory from now, so if Japan conquered Szechuan and the British troops recaptured Szechuan, then it would go to the Chinese, unless if China collapses. I'll cover what collapsing means later on. But over here, and also with Belarus and Ukraine, you can see a slight outlining. So you can see there's a yellow outlining, which means, well, it goes all around here, which means if an ally captures it, it'll go to China. It's de facto Chinese land. So if anyone captures it, it goes to China. And the same with Belarus and Ukraine. If American units liberated Ukraine and Belarus, the Soviets would control the territory. And if the battle isn't concluded yet, you just flip the cards to a battled side. So if Kwang Si wasn't finished, let me Kwang Si. You flip it. Wait, is there any difference? Well, there's no difference for Kwang Si. It's both only worth one. Wait, no, it's worth one. It's worth 1 OSR. Oh yeah, I didn't know. So, yeah, so it's no longer worth one OSR. It's gone. You could see. Okay. And any units which were being built, so if China captured Peiping, then any units being built in Peiping would go to China. And the same applies to any state, not just China. But there is one exception, which only applies to China. If Japan was building air or sea units, and China captured Peiping, China would not get them. Those units would just be taken off the board because China can't have air or sea units. And then after that, after you get awarded the stress, you can also earn medals, and you earn each medal for a territory you capture. So if India captured Burma, you would earn 1 medal. But if you captured the capital, you earn 3 medals. So if China captured Peiping, you earn 3 medals. And then if Japan recaptured Peiping, they'd get 3 medals. Or if America captures Japan, the US obviously gets 3 medals. And you earn stress, as previously mentioned, if you lose units. You could see how much stress is for each unit over here. 2 for infantry, 2 for artillery, 4 for a tank, 6 for a bomber, etc. But let me just explain. You don't if say that an infantry is worth 2, you don't get 2 of these stress markers. Because you only get them if you get 8. If you only get 1 stress marker if you get 20 stress. What this means is how much points it is. So it takes 10 dead infantry to get 1 stress mark. So just I'll differentiate. So an infantry gives you 2 stress points, while 20 stress points equals 1 stress marker. And for Japan, 6 stress markers gives them a threshold. So yeah, and other ways you can earn stress is by breaking the Japanese-Soviet Pact, which basically the Soviets, they can't attack the Japanese. But if one of them broke the pact, they would earn 6 stress medals, which automatically brings them into a threshold. And also, the first time you attack a neutral, only the first time, you take 1 stress token. And yeah, so that's pretty much it for Battle Resolve. Flip any battle markers after a battle to the blue-red side if it's not finished. It's over here. Well, that's only after the battle is done. Since this is this phase, you're meant to do the battle. But just for oversimplified, if the battle concluded, these 2 units both didn't kill each other, it would just be flipped. So, oh wait, I'm gonna resolve the battle so I can move on to phase 5. Okay, so I finished the previous step. By the way, make sure when you are spending resources when trying to heal your units, make sure to move these things down depending on what you choose. If you spent 1 OSR, move it 1 down. So it's time for phase 5. So any planes which are marked with an arrow tag. Wait, let me. Oh, I didn't leave any units with an arrow tag because I didn't move any planes. But if in the previous step, whenever planes are moved, and when you place an arrow tag, let me just explain this right now. Arrow tag. Look this. So whenever there are planes on an arrow tag, first of all, the Japanese would move them first because, well, you'd move them in turn order. So first the Japs would move 1, then the Americans, then the Brits, and then again Japs, Americans, Brits, Japs, Americans, Brits, depending on how much there are. The Chinese can never have any planes, so that's why I'm not mentioning them. And so basically, they can move 2 spaces and they have to move back to a friendly territory or to a carrier. There's no carrier there, so they can't move there. So if they're here, they can move to Cheikang or Peiping. And one good thing you can do is to make yourself have to refund deploy on purpose, so you can move further. So 1, 2. Oh wait, yeah. Or you can't land the ocean, so you can move an extra 2 spaces, which is a really good thing you can do. So you can move to New Zealand basically instantly. Or you can just move 1 space. And if you don't move them at all, or if you can't move them, so if they were if they were in China, like in Xinjiang, but literally all of Asia was controlled by Japan, then they would just die because they're not in the friendly territory. And air units can be split. So if you wanted one to go somewhere else and the other to go somewhere else as well, like if you had let me think of an example. Well, if you just had two planes and you wanted them to go to, if you wanted one to go to A and the other to go to B, you just split them. And for the second half, refers to move the planes, but deploy. That basically means any units being built, you take the industry token off them. So that's basically when the units being built actually become built. And add the command token to any units being built. But this only applies to the first round. Not in the first round. This only applies to other rounds because in the first round, obviously, you haven't built anything yet. But for other turns, units are being built. When it's step 5, after you moved your planes, you have to take off the industry token. And if when you build units, so say if you build ships and land units and air units, you can't put the sea units in P1 while they're being built. They're all in Japan. So when you deploy them, that's when you separate them. Separate the air units, separate the land units, and separate the sea units, which you'd move to P1. Not P0 because there's no port in P0. And if you don't if you don't have any command tokens to put on your units, then the units being built are just cancelled. They're not casualties, but you can't. It's really rare, but you can't build any more units. You just have too much, unless if you were combine some units. So if you combined some units, then you'd have an extra command token to have more units. And if an area was bombed and lost one of the territory's worth, so if you built 8 units, but you got bombed and now the territory's worth 7, you'd have to choose which one you'd have to remove because you could only build 7 units. And moving on, this step, which I'm going to talk about now, applies to all turns. Once all planes are moved and you split all the units or combine them of your choice, all the units have to be in one category. By the way, I'm trying to think how to explain this. Basically, um, when you do move them and you wanted to combine them, I don't know why this took so long to think about, but basically what it means is you can't have more than 8 units in a single stack, and you can't like move and combine your stack with any other units. You can't combine it with land units or sea units, and you can have with other air units when you're moving them, but they can't all be combined with. Well, there can't be more than 8 units in one stack, and they all have to be one country. So it can't be an area. There can't be a stack with both British and American planes. And so now let's move on to phase 6. So let me press ready for everyone. So you something this. Also, the industry token doesn't exist for China. That's a whole separate thing, which I'll talk about later on. So now, morale. So the first thing you do is multiply the amount of units which died by how much stress stress points are worth. So let's count. So there's 1 infantry which died. So you times 1 by 2, which is obviously 2. How much artillery? Okay, 1 by 2. So the Americans, they had to pay that's how much stress they had to pay. they both had to have 2 stress points, which equals to a 0 stress. So they don't move any. They don't get any stress. Thingy. What are they called again? Stress tokens. Yeah. And if Americans, if they get 4 stress tokens, they've got 70 to 88 or more. That's how much it takes to move down the threshold. When we move down the threshold, we move down the Homeland status chart. And for Japan, it takes 6 stress points to reach that, so they need 90 or more. Yeah, so 0 to 18, 0, 20 to 34 is 1, 36 to 52, and yeah, so on Tabletop Simulator, you just press this button, so we could see 2 stress points. And any medals and civilian goods? No. So now we're done with this. Let me just explain some stuff before I talk about the last phase, phase 7. Basically, throughout the game, you can get medals which cancel out 1 stress. So if you've got 1 medal, that could cancel out 1 stress token, and so that could be really handy. So they could stop you from reaching one of these areas in the status chart thresholds. That's what they're called. And you can also use civilian goods to cancel out stress. Civilian goods and medals are the same, but you earn them different ways. I already explained how you get medals. You earn civilian goods by spending 5 of any resource, which you can see over here. Yeah, so if you reach 7, stress tokens, which is 90 stress points, you'd move it down to blue chart, and this if happened again. So if you got 180, like in this, if you got 90 in a separate turn, and you move again and again, and eventually, if you go down too far, your country collapses, you turn into anarchy. Yeah, so you start off in the white zone, which has no consequences. Let me explain what the zones mean. The blue zone, after the end of phase 6, each time you have to pay 3 resources of choice. Then the yellow zone, which blocks you from using rails, and you don't earn port advantage, which is really bad. And but you can still use rails from your allies. And you can still use ports from your allies. So, like, if you're next to a port and you're in a battle, like, from your ally's port, then you could still earn port advantage. And you can still build units next to a port. And the next, if Japan reaches this zone, it's basically a death penalty, which is the orange zone, which is pretty obvious, as it says. You only earn, you lose 3 options. So if you're China, you can only have 3 options because you start with 6. The Japs, they would only earn 6. And yeah, so that's really bad. And then you reach economic collapse or the red zone, where you earn 0 resources. But you do keep the ones which you already have. And finally, the grey zone, the worst one, which I've never seen anyone reach the grey zone. And what it means is each turn you lose the amount of units to how much stress tokens you have, which is honestly just awful. And you must do this every single turn. And if you lose all men and you can't build any more men, then your country collapses, and you basically lose the game. You not your team, but you in general. And whenever your allies take over your land, you don't control it. Your allies do. So it's basically pure anarchy. And if an area is embattled and you lost your men, then if you have no men there, then it would just become a it would just become a garrison force battle, Unless if you fully collapse, you have no garrison forces, then you'd lose. But if you still have some units and you haven't collapsed, and the units were taken off in an embattled region, then there would just be a garrison force as a sort of like local militia. And yes, so if an enemy captures your territory, they can't use they can't really well they can't well base oh no never mind, I was thinking of something else. Anyways, so now wait, well, let me just explain. If both teams, like if they all collapse at the same time, which is really rare, and the world basically all becomes anarchy, then it just becomes a tie, and quite a sad tie actually, because it would just be all wasteland. So, for phase 7, you would first check how much resources you have, which you can see, and you would write it down here, how much resources you have, and you would write which units you want to buy. So you could write 1. So you're basically wait, this is wait it says over here, this is where you write how much resources you have, and over here is where you write how much you're spending, and you take it away from this to see how much you have left. So you can see a tank, 1 oil, 2 steel, and 1 OSR, and I start off with 7 oil, 10 steel, and 15 OSR. And yeah, so all these just show how much everything is worth. So you can see that, and yes, you can just buy whatever you want. And when you're done, you just press ready. And you can obviously buy the civilian goods. And yeah, so everyone has to announce what they're building. And when everyone is ready, wait, whoops, I cancelled that. Let me just press ready for everyone. Oh wait, no, let me just build something for China, just so I can show something. Because China has some interesting rules on building units, which I'll explain soon. Well, I did already briefly mention about the mobilization thing. Okay, so you can see over here in Tabletop Simulator, it shows who built what. And so, as Japan, you would gather. Whoops, let me select them all. You would gather the units and place them down over here. And let me get a mobilize an industry token. And you can see over here that these are the units being built. Even if those units, they would all just be placed on Japan. I could. Oh wait, how much units did I build? Wait. Oh wait, I can count here. 6, 7. Oh, I built too much. So let me. Yeah, so I have to. Let me. Oops. So as you can see, I built too much. Instead, yeah, so I can't have more than 8 units there. So instead, I have to build 8 there, and I have to pick these guys to move somewhere else, which is thingy Peiping. So yeah, and if they're bombed, then they'll just be taken off the board. When they're they just can't go over when they're being built. So you have to remember, if it's bombed, if Japan was bombed, you can only build 7 units, and then you just build them somewhere else. Obviously, you can't do in Peiping because there's already 2 units being built in Peiping. So so that's it's pretty simple how to build units. But let me show you the exception with China. Basically, you can choose wherever you want, as long as obviously the commercial area is worth is still a factor in this. So one, oops, and 1. Well, the difference is you don't place an industry marker. Instead, they're automatically instantly built. You can only build artillery and infantry. So right now you can just combine them right now. So that's why you want to get rid of China as fast as possible. Trust me. China is honestly extremely annoying to do. I've really hated going up against them as Japan. Combine steps. And you can do this to any state with the mobilization symbol on it. So you can see Cheking Guangdong in all Chinese areas, and also in not Peiping, but in Manchuria as well. So basically, no Chinese areas besides Peiping. And in the global scenario, when you're building stuff, you can also trade with neutrals. Only the global scenario, not this scenario. And let me explain how this works. Normally, next to Brazil, there's a symbol which explains how you trade. But basically, whenever you're trading stuff, hold on, let me find on the sheet. So you trade in blocks. 5 OSR is one block. 3 OSR is another block, and 2 OSR is an oil block. So you can trade with any nation, but so over here you can see Mexico. They have a steel token, so that means they have loads of steel, and you can't trade OSR. Well, you can't give them steel in exchange for something because they already have steel. Instead, you could trade oil or OSRs for that steel. So you could spend 5 OSRs for free steel, or 2 oil for free steel. So it's basically a triangle. So 5 OSRs for free steel or 2 oil, free steel for 2 oil or 5 OSRs, and well, you get the gist. And Colombia, they have the OSR symbol, so you can't give them OSRs, but you can give them something for their OSRs. And you can't trade with neutrals, which you've attacked, obviously. And there are two ways to trade with nations. And you have to announce when you're trading with nations. And China can't trade. And pro-neutrals only trade with the country they're aligned to. So Mexico can only trade with the US or Canada or not Canada, or the British and the Soviets, because they're pro-allies, because they're light green. The Axis don't start off with any pro-Axis, but if the Allies attacked the Allies attacked Mongolia, become pro-Axis and can only trade with Axis powers. There are 2 forms of trading: land trading, which is when you trade with an area which is bordering you. And if these 2 areas were battled, but you can't trade with Mongolia. I mean, well, you can't trade Mongolia normally because they don't have any resource on them, so you can't trade with them at all. But actually, let me say also it's only the global scenario. I've said that before. But if these 2 are battled, the US cannot trade with Mexico through land trading. However, there is sea trading, which is basically trading with which is basically trading with any you can basically trade with any nation which basically has a season. And hang on, I'm trying to read the script to check. Okay, sea trading is basically well, for the Allies, there's different rules between Allies and Axis. So the Brits, they can trade with Mexico through sea trading because they have seas, so you can trade over here like this. And the same applies for the Axis, but the Axis needs ships next to a port. So if the Germans want to trade more Mexico, they need to put a ship right here well, it's not in the Pacific, but wherever this season will be, that's where the ships would have to be. And if both Axis ships were in P6 and over here, that means Mexico could not sea trade with any of the Allies. So the Axis need to coerce nations to trade with them, while the Allies just need to do it normally. So that's pretty much it with the phases, and that's with most of the rules. Let me explain something about the victory conditions. So if both nations control the victory points, which is as we know, well, for the Allies it's Japan and Berlin, and well, for the Axis it's two of the following: Moscow, London, and the US. So if the US control Japan and the Axis controlled everything which they need, the game would still not end until the Axis regain control of both of their capitals. So one nation needs to control, well, the Allies need to control all five, while the Axis need to control just 4 out of 5. They can't lose any of their own capitals, besides Italy, because Italy is basically useless. Like, if the Allies captured Italy, it wouldn't be a victory condition. This isn't implementing the game. What I like to do when I play with people, just like when a game concludes, we just like do peace treaties and just like draw borders, which or like set limits for just to make it a bit more realistic and fun. And yeah, so I already explained about the anarchy. So if all nations collapse at the same time, it's a tie. And yeah, and garrison forces, they don't exist whenever they collapse. So that's pretty much it. So let me explain just 2 more things before the video ends. How invading neutrals works, and also the last thing, which is the Soviet-Japanese Pact. As previously mentioned, I'm not covering micro extensions, so this convoy casualty, or a submarine token, which you might see while playing on Tabletop Simulator, it's part of a nano expansion, which you can see in the description. Rules about it, but I'm not going to cover them because then it's just going to be way too long. I'm just covering the basics for if you just get the base game. So let me explain the neutrals. When you attack a neutral, you take 1 stress for the first time you attack a neutral, and the neutral. So let me get an example. So if Japan attacked Mongolia, then Mongolia would become a pro-allied country, and the closest nation which supports the neutral, which in this case would be the Soviets or the Chinese. It would just be randomly selected. I'll just not the Soviets because the pact, so it will be the Chinese. Never mind. So the Mongols, they're basically join the Chinese, and you'd place the you would basically place if Japan attacks Mongolia, you'd place free infantry on Mongolia. So let me gather free infantry. Pretty sure it's over here. Yeah, it is. Let me get free infantry and select them. Okay, and over here, and make these guys attack. So and the battle would occur in Phase 4. Flying over a neutral, so if you moved over it to attack Xinjiang, would not count as violating the neutral, and you can do that. You can't land a plane and keep them there. And when neutral units die, they wouldn't count as casualties for the Chinese, and they'll just be taken off the board. However, if the neutral units survive the round which are being attacked, if they survive, then the units become Chinese units, and Mongolia directly becomes part of China. So that's pretty good for Chinese because they just got some extra units and some land, which gives them a medal. And if a neutral does not have any units, then they still have garrisons. And a pro-neutral can, and as previously mentioned, a pro-neutral can only trade with a nation it's aligned with, besides China, because China can't trade. And yeah, so that's pretty much it. If both Chinese and Japanese invaded Mongolia, then the first nation which attacked, so depending on who bid the most, they would be classed as the attackers. So say the Japanese went first because Chinese can't bid, and the Japanese did bid, then that means the Japanese, they would be classed as attackers, and the Chinese guys would just be classed as defending the Mongols. So, the last thing which I need to cover is the Soviet-Japanese Pact. And the Soviets and Japanese, well, the first term, well, basically, the pact, it does get cancelled out. It does get cancelled if Moscow or Berlin fall. If Berlin or Moscow fall, then the pact between the two nations is cancelled. So it's kind of like the real thing. So after Germany falls, the Soviets can concentrate on the Japanese and invade them. So the first term is that each nations can't enter each other's territories, and they can't fly over each other's territories. And also, each nation, they can't allow their allies to use their land. So the Soviets, they can't let the Americans go through Kamchatsky into Khabarovsky. The American units in Khabarovsky, if there were American units in it, they can't attack Manchuria. If the Americans made that decision, then the Soviets have the choice to cancel out American decisions. So the unique thing is, the Soviets can cancel their allies' moves if it violates the pact, or they can choose to accept it. But if the Americans attack the Soviets, then the Soviets will take the 6 stress, which happens if the pact is broken. For the person who violates the pact takes 6 stress tokens. So yeah, so the Chinese can't attack Manchuria through Khabarovsky or any other ally, and the same applies for the Axis. And if there were Soviet sea units in P1 and there were Japanese sea units in P1, then there wouldn't be a battle. They both can be in the same sea zone. However, that is going to have some changes in the second edition, which I mentioned. So some things which I'm talking about might be they may not be up to date with the new version coming out. But as of now, that's what's happening as of now with the first version. So if there's Soviet sea units over here and Japanese sea units in the same sea zone, no battle. If the Soviets moved in to defend China, well, either way, they can't fight the Japs, even if they're trying to defend the Chinese. But if Germans were also attacking the Chinese, so if there are Germans and Japanese attacking a Chinese province, and there were Soviet units in that Chinese province, that means there would be 2 separate battles. There would be the the Japanese and the Germans against the Chinese, and also the Soviets and Chinese against the Germans. Whichever happens first. So whoever picks the battle first matters. So if the Chinese and the Soviets pick the battle first, and they both choose to go up against the Germans, that means the next battle which would happen would just be between the Japanese and Chinese. So let me explain. Let me just show how that would work. So if the Axis chose first, then they would preferably choose to both go up against the Chinese. So that means it would be fair between just 1v1. So yeah, so that's pretty much it. Yeah. Hang on, let me just explain one last time just in case. So if the Axis chose, they would preferably choose to both go up against the Chinese first. That means the next battle would just be between the Soviets and Germans. If the Allies choose, then they would preferably choose to both go up against the Germans, and then the next battle will just be between these two powers. So they can take out so it's basically who gets to choose who being a 2v1. And yeah, so if the Axis won and the Chinese guys were killed, the Soviets still remained. If the Japanese took over Singhai Ningsai, no, you pronounce it. The Soviets, they could freely move out. But if there were Germans in here, that means the Soviets would be entirely pinned, and the units which are pinned would die. But the ones which do survive and move out, they would just move out. If the Soviets can move out but choose not to, that violates the pact, and so war with Japanese begins, and the Soviets take 6 stress tokens, which moves them up a threshold over here. And all land captured by both parties in the first turn of a pact being broken. So if the Soviets captured Manchuria on the first turn, they would not get any resources from Manchuria in the first turn which they obtain it. And so that's pretty much it with the game. So I'm gonna have like a second version of this just to explain the scenarios and just have a gameplay video of it. I'll label as episode 5.5, so it won't really be its own episode because it's not really its own thing. It's just like showing some gameplay for the sake of it, and that should be out in probably a few weeks. So I hope you enjoyed this episode, and see you later. Bye.